Beloved family of light, brothers and sisters, I'm Giaya Ariati. I am the assigned oracle for the 144 and beyond. I am of sound heart and sound mind. And we have a very important update that is coming from the Council of One. And my expression here is in relation to supporting this shift. And I will give a very brief overview of the current point of the tipping point for anyone who's tuning in for the first time, anyone who has no awareness around the tipping point of consciousness and what is taking place and what we've been moving through for the last few months and where we are at the trajectory of that into the next shift. So this is a very important transmission in relation to supporting not just the 2% that are going to go through this acceleration, but for the entire bringers of change. So I want to first express to you what the bringers of change is. So the bringers of change is a collective consciousness of beings that come from different sects that came specifically to the human experience to help evolve the human consciousness to come into the heart chakra resonance. Now, the bringers of change are a large portion of around 800,000 people, roughly. And then you have or is it million? Now I'm trying to remember what the dimensions of numbers were. It's a very large number of people. How many zeros have we got? 8. Yeah, so it's 80 million people that have come here to help the earth ascend. Now, if we look at that from the percentage of the population of how many people are in the population, there is a large, I wish I had the figures right in front of me right now, it would be way easier, but it's about 10% of the population. So if we say roughly 10% of the population are here to help the evolvement of the earth, and that is what you would consider the bringers of change. The bringers of change are the first wave, the second wave, and the third wave. They come from this galaxy here, parallel galaxies, the unity consciousness field, and from light consciousness itself, here incarnated as physical beings to remember who they are and why they are here for their purpose. Now, the 144 specifically are a sect out of that. So it's a specific DNA strand. Now, the 144 is about the 1% of the bringers of change. So the 144 is a small, minute sect, I guess, of the full bringers of change consciousness, and they are the ones that are here to be the hierarchical leaders of consciousness to assist in becoming the God, the Goddess incarnate, the Christos bringers, the ascended masters. These are the sages of our new earth. And they are the ones that I specifically focus on because that's my role. My role is to assist the leaders of the new earth, and that assists the entire collective consciousness. So whether or not you feel in resonance to being a 144 or a bringer of change and all the different sects and soul groups that we have that make that up, this transmission will be of assistance to everyone because of the information that it holds, and that you have sovereign choice at any time to choose your role and your evolvement in consciousness. So without going into any further information around that, because I have spoken into these things many, many times, if you want to have more information, you can look up and search things on my social media, and you can also search things through my YouTube channel. So we are coming into the full moon on the 18th. Now, it is actually the 21st. So if you have been listening to these energy updates, you will find out that there is usually about a 3 to 4 day lag on the time that is considered important to our calendar, and actually the time that that point meets its peak, and which is great for us because we get these awarenesses beforehand and we can move through them before the main majority of the population does. This is helpful for those that are space holders, for healers that are receiving their own internal alignment and then can hold space and support others that are going through that second wave of consciousness. It's just the flow of energy and movement. So we have a full moon and an eclipse that's happening on the 18th. Now, The date that is a choice point date, or a pivotal point in the divine plan, is the 21st. The 21st is the middle point of this 8-8 portal to the 11-11 portal. Now, that pivotal point is the middle point of the tipping point. So this is where we are expected to fully complete cycles out. So you could say this is a rebirth moment. This is a moment of rebirth, of out of the old into the new. And we have been doing that through macro and micro cycles this whole time. However, at the moment, because there is such a shift into new energy, new earth, new identity, who I am as a new earth leader, the old expression of self has to dissolve away, which is where the eclipse is helpful, because that is the shadow, and the shadow allows for the old self to basically come up in huge amounts and really excavate up in your consciousness. So you might be having what would be considered another dark night of the soul. You might have had a lot of infiltration in the last few weeks. You may have found yourself sick. You might have found yourself overactive in your mind and your brain's consciousness that is a little bit through the tethering point. This is what is taking place, so that you can alchemize out all of the shadows, all of the old thought forms, all of the old identities, any karmic footprint, anything that is still left in ancestral memory, anything that is still in your cellular structure that is holding you back from your embodiment, your anchoring, and into your new energy. So this is what we could call a deep purge into a rebirth. And this is also where we have had many of the originally assigned brothers and sisters of the divine family in this roles and responsibilities that we all have for each other to create this, because we cannot do it alone, have either continued to forget. They are not in the choosing of what they were assigned to, and they have stepped onto a different pathway, a different map, a different trajectory of consciousness. And so there has been a separation point of the bringers of change, where there is 3 different sects of bringers of change at the moment. So we could say the 144 is where I focus, which is the higher states of consciousness. Then you have the middle section. They have their own mission directive, and they're on their own path into divine union. So the 144 is a transcendent bunch. So we are here to transcend the 7 chakras into the 8th. Then you have the middle sect, which is to come into divine union, which is basically transcending the idea of right and wrong. And then you have the sect at the bottom, which is the foundations. They are the support sect. They are the ones that are here to assist in grounding. They're really here to maintain a stability of consciousness. So they're not evolving per se, but they're more stabilizers. They're the ones that are here and they're stabilizing. They're quite happy with their level of medicine. They're quite happy to get to a certain point and just stick to that for the rest of their incarnation cycle. Now that's beautiful. It's perfect. We all have different roles. However, because some of the 144 and the higher sect have decided that they are not going to fulfill their mission, then ones that were in the middle, or ones that were in the higher sect, are choosing to evolve beyond what they chose to incarnate here on Earth for. Now, how does one evolve beyond what they chose to be? That happens in multiple ways. And the ways that this is happening, because there is roles being released, there is also consciousnesses being released. So say you had someone here, and I can use a previous example that I've already spoken to on this channel before, so it's not new information, is that I was being trained since November of last year to assist a walk-in to come into my divine counterpart. That walk-in energy was the energy of Thoth Hermes, and I went through a phase of assisting that individual that was being prepared for that consciousness to, I was basically a light guardian angel for that being. That being chose from a human level that they were not ready. They did not want to choose their cosmic mission, and they forfeited their role. Now that role meant that all of that consciousness that was being prepared and held in his auric field, in his Taurus field, was then released and sent up into the ether. and it was redistributed to the next person that was choosing. So that person then received all of the codes, the templates. Archangel Michael then left that original being and moved to the new being as the guardian angel, the assistance, to allow for the DNA. So when you evolve beyond your current state of being, what happens is you need to go through genetic upgrades, because your genetics and your coding in your physical vessel is only being prepared for the consciousness that you chose to be here in this incarnation. What does that mean for someone who's choosing to evolve beyond their mission? You're going through a lot of changes, a lot of physical changes, a lot of mental changes, a lot of downloads, expansion. You're going through a rapid shift. This is a lot on the physical vessel to go from one evolutionary standpoint to another. If you received one of my earlier channels, it was on the 12 men. If you haven't received it and this information is tweaking your interest, go search it up and have a look after. It will have some key information. But these 12 original men were the 12 original families. They were the kings of the original families back in Anunnaki Sumeria timeline, and they were the leaders of these different 12 soul families. And each of those men had 2 queens, so I'm going to expose that now. 2 queens to assist that male, because the male consciousness is actually what you would consider a 199 DNA strand. Now, this 199 DNA strand only means that they've got a more evolved consciousness than the queen or the woman that they're in connection with. Now, this does not mean romantic connection either. If it's romantic, great, wonderful. Otherwise, it can be a platonic connection of support roles. And that is still our current trajectory, as much as we have mutated it in this reality that the man has a more evolved consciousness. That's one of the distortions around men and women. However, women have a direct connection to spirit. So there is a need for both of those individuals to work together in the highest evolvement for the soul family, for their own mission, because we cannot do this alone. And a woman does require a man in a consciousness of balance or polarity, in unity, to assist with each of the individual traditional roles of man and woman and what we were created for on this planet. Now, I'm also not going to go into that. If you want to do some more research on that, I've written quite a few different pieces around the roles of man and woman and the different understandings of that. You can go and research that through by just typing it in to any of my social media platforms. In regards to this, the reason that I'm sharing is if you were one of the original divine role bearers and you forfeited your role, what happens is that DNA coding, so someone who was considered maybe a 199 man, is that consciousness then gets released into the ether, and their DNA actually gets deconstructed into the consciousness that they've chosen. So it's actually a reverse engineering of the DNA that takes place in the body, and that's to hold the consciousness that they're choosing. If you were one of the people that when all of this was taking place between the eclipse and the 8-8 portal, then you've gone through a lot of genetic upgrades. You might have gone through a lot of mystery school training in your sleep state, and you have come into a higher evolved state where you are about to receive, if you have not already, that consciousness that was released into the ether, into your body. That is what you would consider a walk-in energy. So there are many gods and goddesses or consciousnesses throughout our history that are not in physical incarnation. There are a lot that are in physical incarnation. And so the point of our current trajectory is that all of our divine family that have been here on the earth, and others that are of a more ascended frequency that have not been here on the earth, can come in to assist this shift in consciousness, because it is manpower, or what we could call consciousness power. And that those roles are now starting to come into the physical vessel. So this is what's happening during the rebirth phase. If you were someone who's, say, not expecting a walk-in energy, because that is only 2% of the 144, which is also only that top banner of the bringer of change, so it is a small portion, but you might be a support person, that all of a sudden your partner's going through crazy energetic things. They're not sure of what's going on. Their body's going through a lot of physical purging. They might be having hallucinations. They might be remembering memories that don't feel like theirs, because they're actually in the consciousness of the other being that's inside their body. I will explain walk-ins a little bit further down this path, but I want to ensure that I get everything out as quickly as possible, as most cohesive as possible, in such a multidimensional topic. So if you're not following, that is okay, because you're still receiving energetically. And if you feel like you need to go back, there was a certain thing and your brain started to glitch out and you feel like you can't receive anymore, just turn this off, pause it, go and do something else, come back to it later. Sometimes the energies and the frequencies that come through are too much for your brain. Your brain goes, I'm at capacity, I'm shutting off now. The 144 that are choosing to also evolve and accelerate, what's happening for them is their monadic self or their higher self, their galactic self, whatever self is in a higher state of their current human expression that has been grounded, integrated, and embodied. There is a mergence process. So for me, if you've feeling or sensing something different for me, it's because I'm currently in the process and I'm about 82% into the emergent process of my monad in my physical form. So my expression and my communication is going to be different. My octaves and my frequency is going to be different. The language that I use and the expression that I am is going to be different, because I'm no longer separate from human to monadic self. The bridging of the gap has started to cease to exist so that they can coexist in the here and now present moment. So this is happening to about 51% of the bringers of change as a total. So about half. We have half that have gone, I'm going to accelerate and choose to use this tipping point to my advantage, and I'm going to merge with whatever stage of consciousness I've chosen to bring into my body. That may be your universal consciousness. So your universal consciousness is the sum of experiences you've had on earth. It is what some would consider the oversoul, and their oversoul is now merging with their human self. And there will no longer be a separation or a tethering point, which means you can communicate at your oversoul's expression, which is a level of wisdom and knowledge that comes through. You then have your galactic, and your beyond the galactic is, which might be you're embodying your Lyran self. You might be embodying your Arcturian self. You might be embodying your entire galactic consciousness, which is a sum of different energy signatures and frequencies with all of their abilities and gifts all at once. And you may be working with your angelic. You might be working with your entire unity consciousness field. So every single one of us is different with what it is that we're going to be merging into. And that emergence process can be uncomfortable, because if you are, say, merging with a frequency of the 9th dimension or from the 12th dimension, anything that is in your physical body that does not vibrate at the signature resonance of that frequency has to die. It has to dissolve. It has to dissipate. It has to be alchemized. It has to be transmuted, because you cannot merge, which is where the cell merges with the frequency and the cell vibrates at a new vibrational frequency, without the old frequency alchemizing out. It will not anchor. You can have many activations. You might have visited your angelic selves so many times over the last 15, 20, 30 years, but have you embodied and become your angelic presence? And that is the difference, is you can dance and journey and receive and talk to all of these energy frequencies, but until they become an embodiment, you have not merged and become the I am of that. So that's what's taking place for many of us, is we're going through this rapid mergence. So those that are the 144 that are merging with their higher state, just have a think, feel, and see what it is that you're connecting with. And one of the beautiful tricks about this time frame, so you have, and whatever you've been moving through currently until now, until the 21st, to complete this emergence process, Some of you, if you are a little accelerated, like myself and my beautiful beloved counterpart, we are accelerated. We need to complete this before the 21st because we have slightly different timelines, because we've accelerated beyond the original times that were stated. And that's something that's important to assist all others as the synapses of the consciousness shifts and the earth grid shifts and the ether and the firmament shift. Beautiful. So in regards to how to make this mergence process easier for those that are merging with self, a version of self, is to look at what is the version of self you are currently merging with. If it is in your universal consciousness, then you've got the point of separation is between human and universal, or whatever dense matter you have. So anything between there needs to release. That will be any karmic earth past lives, so past lives on the earth, any aspects of your human consciousness that has fragmented, so human thought forms, which is around your mother, your father, children. It might be around scarcity, it might be around your physical appearance, it might be around self-love, it might be around deservability. So you have a universal consciousness that is very much based on the human mind, the human construct, the way the human being sees their environment and their universe. And so you're going through a process of how do I shift from my human thought forms and constructs of reality into a more universal construct of what reality is, and dissolving those beliefs, those attachments, and those separations between there. If you are going into a human lens, into a galactic consciousness, you've got a further bandwidth to work through. So you're not only going to be working through your universal, because that sits within that bandwidth, but you're also going to be working with the above bandwidth here that requires you to dissolve the separation points between you and your Lyran self, or your Pleiadian self, or your Mantis self, and the wars between light and dark. So if you're going to be integrating and fully embodying one of these consciousness, it's looking at that level of galactic wounding, that galactic belief systems, those points of separation to seeing yourself as these energy signatures. And each of these archetypes or galactic beings are holding different archetypal energies that you've chosen to hold here in your human experience to assist your purpose, to assist your personality, to hold those signatures that are specific characteristics that people can relate to, can see, and that resonate with whatever it is that you're here to bring to shift and assist humanity. Now, if you are in the unity consciousness and you are coming from human to unity consciousness, you then have universal and galactic to move through, as well as your unity consciousness expression. So just as a clause of recognition, if you have not alchemized out your universal and galactic, it does not mean that you cannot anchor your unity consciousness expression into physical form. It means that what you're doing is you're quantum leaping. So you're actually jumping those two frameworks of consciousness, and you're coming into a higher consciousness, and you're going, okay, I'm going to look at what is here, the separation point from here to here. What is my beliefs from here to here that make me believe I cannot be a unified being in physical presence, in divine union with all that is? And instead of working through all the human beliefs, all the galactic beliefs and memories, you're going, I'm coming here and I'm going to pull that into my being, and everything else dissolves away. So you can quantum leap to the end point of what you're wanting to anchor, but it means that you have to function from the end points, not from the middle. The middle will get you stuck, you'll get confused, you'll loop around different things and you won't find your way. It's here to here, what are the beliefs on each end of the spectrum so they can join in the middle. This shift will this shift will create that energetic vibrational resonance that You've just going to take a few moments. Let's just do a little bit of coding here for everyone that is receiving, and to allow these codes to alchemize and to realign not just your neural pathways but your circuitry system, so that everything that's currently being spoken and unspoken can be integrated. So we'll just take a couple of deep breaths mid-transmission to do this so that it supports your being. Breathing in, breathing out, in, out, in, out. Nistai shtakare e titai rataki nai, no oso toko e tisha akare, mo ose ni e siti sha aki, baase e tita ratore kini e, unno e anae e yo, unnae e yo e, unnare e yo, unnare e yo. Mikara ya nish iti karate ue nus ati tai indai ika ra ati na ase tika roto otoshu ba aki titi sha e anai eki bish ati toruku nish kai iti anai e. Taking another 3 deep breaths, but into the high heart. We're wanting to anchor it in the high heart, which is your source point of heart connection. Breathing in and out, in and out, in and out. Beautiful. Okay. So as this moon comes closer, you're going to witness, if you have not already, the areas of your life experience that are not supporting your new consciousness. So if you are quantum leaping at any way through this, and you're using the acceleration point to your advantage, because it is more, I wouldn't say it's more easeful, but it's definitely more fast. So that's why it's an acceleration point. It can actually be an extremely confusing time and very challenging, which is why I'm here to share this message, so that you can see what the possible turbulence is that might be coming up for you. Your acceleration during this period is going to show you everything that's out of alignment to the consciousness that you're currently integrating and embodying for your new earth frequency. This will show you the relationships that do not work. It will show you the lands of location that you cannot live on. It will show you the work environments that you can no longer function in. It will show you the points of relationships. It will show you the foods and the activities in exercise that will no longer work for you. It will give you a complete life overview of all of the areas within your experience that you have to say, let go of, and release those attachments of. Now, the trigger warning or the activation around this is we talk around, yes, letting go of our old person, of our old self, our old life. But the problem is most of you are holding on so darn tight that you're creating tethering, suffering, and disconnection for yourself, because the things that your human desires to hold on to are often not what is going to be supportive of your new consciousness that is trying to be integrated. So you're holding on to certain behaviors. Maybe you like to go to the pub every Saturday night just to connect with your mates, but you don't want to let go of those mates because you've got a justification that you grew up with them and they've been your friends for the last 20 or 30 years. But you know that there's not a resonance, but they've been there for you for this whole time, right? So that's the kind of stuff that's going to come up. You've got all these different concepts. It might be that you have an attachment to a pet. It might be that you've stayed in a relationship for the last 25 years and there's nothing wrong in the relationship. The relationship's beautiful. It's been really supportive, but that relationship is functioning from this frequency and not this frequency. And whilst you continue to justify why you should keep these beautiful things in your life because they haven't done anything wrong, you're going to create a lot of what some of us would like to call fuckery in your life. So it's the separation, it's the tethering. It is extreme, horrible uncomfortability in your physical body, and it will tether you between light and dark, and you will not be able to see clarity, you will not stabilize, you will not be able to ground. So this life review is, where in my life can I no longer function in my new frequency of where I'm going? What is in reciprocity to the new earth me? So that is a beautiful question to ask yourself as you're doing your life review and you're looking over this over the next roughly a week. Well, it's not really, it's 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 6 days. Over the next 6 days, you're going to allow yourself to look and review what you have to let go of if you want to stabilize this. If this is more important to you than anything else, then you need to see it as the most important thing for you. And you need to start to let go of your story, of your human life desires. Now, this is a theme that's coming up, the story. Where are you attached to the story? Where do you tell yourself the story as to why you haven't done something? Where do you tell yourself the story as to why something's too hard, or you're proving that you're doing the work? So the story is, there's no longer room for the story in our new earth leadership. We cannot tell ourselves the story as to why we have or haven't done something, why someone is or isn't in our life, why we financially can or can't cope with changing our out of our old job into our purpose job, why we are supported or we're not supported. Story, no place. So if you love telling yourself the story, most of us as human beings do, where are you telling yourself the story as to why you should or shouldn't do something, why you can or can't do something? And if you let go of the story, would you see the truth and be able to anchor and move forward to that energy frequency to hold it in more cognition with who you are? All right, what else? For the individuals that are going to be the support network for these 2% that are bringing in evolved consciousness and going through a rapid shift, they are walk-in energies come in a form of a trinity. So a trinity represents itself. They have the energy of the self, whoever they have been in this incarnation, their essence or their soul's energy. Then they have two other energies. Now, a lot of people that receive walk-ins that are already pre-planned or predestined and fated for this point in time to do a massive evolutionary jump, they have coexisted with two energies in their being already. So these are individuals that might have had problems with paranoia, mental health, bipolar, schizophrenia, because there is a tendency to be in one of the personalities and then in the other. And so that is a big form of our mental health for the bringers of change. Our mental health is for those that have either got a ability to work in the yin energy and the yang energy in a conscious framework, so they're in their feminine and their masculine and they dance between, and there is not enough connection to the left and the right hemispheres of the brain, and so they tether. But the other expression for this in the bringers of change of mental health is actually that you are a two-spirited or a two-souled, two-spirited being. So you've come in and you have two spirits within you, and you dance between both spirits, and that is pretty confusing for the human being. And the purpose and the function of this was to get to this point, if not before, and to bring the third spirit in and Trinity, bring them into a Holy Grail energy of the Trinity. This Holy Grail allows for the higher consciousness to be brought in and to be anchored into the being. Every Holy Grail energy holds a Trinity. So mother, father, child, you have mind, body, soul, you have consciousness, vessel, spirit. They all hold frequencies. We have a Trinity of mind, which is the crown third eye and the pineal gland, and that holds the trinity of mind. We have an intuitive trinity, which is your intuitive heart, your intuitive gut, your intuitive spleen. That is a trinity of the holy grail of intuition. So these trinities will show you when there's a holy grail energy. These consciousness that are going through this shift are going into a holy grail of a specific being, we could say. And that is a new being. So there is a soul here, a soul spirit, Miyaki Andeana. There is a spirit here that may already coexist in the body. They've chosen to evolve and to meet their already assigned directive. So the ones that already have two spirits were already pre-planned, fated for this point. Now they're receiving their third energy and they're bringing that trinity together and anchoring that in. This means basically the purification of two spirits. So they've got a lot more work to do than some of us, because they've got two karmic threads. They've got two karmic, they've got two lots of consciousness that they need to go through, which is why some beings will say, I've had lots and lots of past lives. I have not had that many. This is my eighth life on the surface of the earth, because this is my 8th octave. So I've come at specific times to master specific realities, and I only have those timelines as my time here. Now, if you have more, it could be that you're tapping into. Everyone has different amounts. It depends what your journey has been and how long you've been, why you've been, and what you've been mastering. But for these two spirited beings that are going into the 199 energy, so these are our really evolved men. These are not women. Sorry, guys. I know that we like to say there's equality. There is and there isn't. So the men that are going into this 199 will have woman, one or two in their field to support them in this transition. This is energetic. It may not even be recognized that there's a physical support network there. It could be something that you have a friend that is there to assist you with this. You're not aware of how much they're energetically from the monadic self helping you with your DNA and your alchemization process. So these men are bringing in that third trinity to come into the Holy Grail. They're a little bit more prepared because they've been trained. They have a remembrance. This was their original blueprint. There is an awareness. They've been alchemizing these two consciousnesses. They're aware of the Jekyll and Hyde energy within. They know themselves, and they've been walking this path for a long time to receive their third pillar. So the main warning of the important message is for those that don't actually have an awareness that this is going on for them, and they're one of the 144 men, but we also have women in the 144 that are receiving walk-ins to assist in becoming okay, we'll leave the women for a moment because I don't want to confuse it too much. The 144 men that are coming into the 199, they did not come in with two spirits. They came in with one. And there has been different choice points along the way to receive energy, to bring it in, to get ready for it, to receive it. Men are bringing in two spirits at a time. Some of them are bringing one spirit, landing, anchoring it, and integrating it, and then bring in the third spirit later. And this for a male that's chosen to evolve and has gone into devotion, discipline, and is moving from 144 to 199, and there is going to be more than 12 because we have many more sects, we have many more roles, we have many more beings on the earth. So we're no longer 12 families. We have multiple families and multiple roles. This is causing for those men that are not aware that they're actually receiving a walk-in energy. So what does that look like? That is extreme amounts of energy coming into the body, huge amounts of fatigue, physical pain, inability to concentrate, tethering between the left and the right hemispheres of the brain, having moments of feeling psychosis. This is moments of intense overwhelm in heat and cold. This is going through the full spectrum of consciousness at a very, 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 very fast rate. So feeling high levels of love and bliss and purity, and then landing yourself in one-dimensional consciousness of demonic expressions that may or may not be a descended version of the self, but may be also implanted or a trajectory placed in there. So for these men, the most important thing is to have a safe space that is protected and shielded and secure, and to be very, very aware of who is in your direct vicinity, because not everyone that you think has been someone on your path of support is actually a supporter. So there is a lot of double agents being exposed. So these are people that have been here to love you, to guide you in relationships, and all of a sudden you're seeing things about them that you didn't realize were there. Maybe you thought it was unconsciousness, maybe you thought it was trauma, maybe you thought it was just the fact that you had mother or father wounds, or something is showing up, that there is beings that you see as your family or your lover that all of a sudden are not your family and not your lover, because you're seeing that they actually do not have your best interest at heart. And they are the ones that you need to be extremely careful of, because whilst you're vulnerable, their role and agenda is to keep you distracted, disassociated, in suffering, in pain, and disconnected from your path and your role, so you cannot anchor this energy in. So these counter the agendas will be showing up. And this is hard for the human. This is really hard for the human, because you're like, how could have my mum assigned me to be a guinea pig for the Galactic Federation's genetic mutations of the vessel? That doesn't sound like love to me, right? So this is really hard. This is not something that is easy, because it hurts and it needs to be grieved, it needs to be realized, it needs to be acknowledged, and it needs to be felt, and also not fought against. If you fight against, if you try and expose, if you try and fight, bring the double agent to be seen, if you are not seeing through the eyes of God, you're falling into the very trap. So that will cause the challenge of this tethering to not take place. This is where you might feel that you have been possessed. This is where you might find that you have a lot of psychic attacks coming in. You might feel that there's a lot of energetic distortion taking place, and that you will need to recognize some of these things, so that you can, if you are one of these beings that is having this, be really honest with yourself and make the most aligning, safe, nurturing thing for you. This is a real moment of, I need to ensure that I am protected if this is important to me. Because you've only kind of got one shot at this point. This is an acceleration point. After we come out of this point, it won't show up. This is what macrocycles and microcycles are. It's like you go with it, or you accept that you needed a slower path and you weren't willing to go at the same rate, and that's fine too. So those men can be going through either integrating one of the spirits or two, and the need for the genetic upgrades in the body, the thought forms, and you're going to start to see two lots of consciousness. You're going to have different personality traits start to show up. You're going to start to crave different foods. You're going to feel like your body needs different environments, because the energy signature is different. And when you have a walk-in energy, a lot of the time, and a lot of the information that is here around walk-ins is actually that it takes a long period of time to integrate. This is true and not true. The integration phase for a walk-in is the distance between allowing it to merge with the spirit. So if you go straight to the spirit essence of who you are, and you say, I'm willing to merge with the spirit essence that came in. Now, pause, don't do anything yet. There is a clause. As always, be very well informed before you act, is that if you merge your spirit essence with this new being, then you basically bypass all of the things in the way that if you were going through a natural integration process without knowing what you're doing, that you can bring those points together. Instead of being two spirits, they come into one. There's no separation point. You actually can't technically undo that. So you also have to be warned that once you do that, you do that. You merge a spirit essence to a spirit essence. That's one being. You can't pull it apart per se, because it's like birthing a new point of consciousness in that moment. That is a new being, a completely new being. And if you tried to cut it in half, you're almost killing it. You could create another being from it, but you cannot actually pull that apart afterwards, after it's merged in that totality point of a new being. Now, with this, you have to be aware that some of these spirits you're not going to want to merge with, because you might have a spirit energy that comes in. Maybe it's the old consciousness that was in the body, and the new consciousness is what the human actually wants to anchor. The old consciousness is causing too much distortion, distraction, can't actually get on board with the path ahead, has a lot of mental constructs that are not assisting the new path. That spirit actually needs to be exorcised or released from the vessel and sent to either the light or to wherever it wants to go. Some of these older consciousnesses do want to go back to their home planets. They do want to return. They're like, yeah, actually done. Thanks, Earth. You were great, but I'm finished here. Thank you, new being. I'm going to leave now. And so what happens is the human being has to release the old being, and the new being then comes in and merges instead. The human vessel, the human being, is its own being. So your spirit is not your body or your vessel, right? That's where we get this confusion point, is that the spirit and the vessel are two separate consciousnesses. You are meant to merge in this reality to come into the full God presence with the consciousness of your vessel. So you, as a vessel or a human being, can function without an essence or a spirit consciousness. That would be what you could consider an NPC. That's a vessel that runs off all of the programs and the conditioning of what the body is. And they can be used for whatever, for whoever wants to come in at whatever time, and become a player for whoever's agenda, when there's no essence in the body anymore. The body doesn't, you can be a very functioning expression of humanity without a filled consciousness, which is also very interesting for those of you that might want to peer and start to see who has these sparks and who doesn't. All right, let's do another breathe in and a recalibration before I go into the next piece, which is about the woman and how they support these walk-in energies and the awareness of it. So taking 3 deep breaths, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in and out. Mishkara tisanae e siti shatikare dustokore kitayane e mi e siti shatika iti nae e mushkoroto koreke ki satatiti nae e musreki nae a ratata natata kiki shatiti shatakare ukuriki taitianae. All right, women that are receiving walk-in energies. The reason that you might be receiving a walk-in is basically because you haven't followed your path. So you have A, decided not to follow your path, or B, decided to evolve on your path. So there are two sort of main objectives that are playing out. You have beings that have got lost, distracted, they haven't met their choice points over and over and over again. And it's like, come on, you're not doing what you came here to do. And so a new consciousness is coming in and the old consciousness is leaving because it's not doing what it's chosen to do. And that is allowing for a new walk-in energy to come into the woman. Now, this is interesting for the human being because the human being will remember both consciousnesses, and you need to not be attached to who you were, because you can have a complete personality shift with the new energy coming in while still having some of the vessel or the human quirks and personalities. So if you have got to a point which was fated, if you don't do this by then, sorry, but a new energy is going to come in through choice. Or, and this is another more confronting piece for the human, is if you don't have on your fated or chosen path as a human being a new energy to come in, what happens is you have a default. So that energy goes, it has to be relinquished either way and go to wherever it was assigned to and wherever it's choosing to be. It basically doesn't want to be here. And it either chooses A, to become human, which means you downgrade your consciousness to the human construct level, which is some form of universal consciousness, and you let go of all higher possibilities. And if you want to go through that evolvement, you have to go through a whole new journey of consciousness, which is happening. And those are the people that came here and they're like, actually, I want to play human. Okay, are you sure? So playing human for someone who thinks they want to play human but doesn't actually understand what that means is they lose their connections to the galactic. They lose their connection to their guides. They lose their connections to higher states of being because they've made a choice to say, I'm going to be a human. And that's fine, but be very wary because you will lose what you might find to be the most exciting thing about being on the earth. This also means that you are, and this is happening for men and women, but we're focusing mainly on women because this is the main thing. So that is one option for the women that haven't met their points or their choice points up until this, is that they're choosing to be human, their consciousness is leaving, and if their consciousness is leaving and they're not bringing a new energy in, that actually means that they will physically leave the earth. So that means an actual human death. Now, that is something that is what some would consider the mass exodus. And for those that have only said, I'm going to come here for this much of the experience and then I'm going to go, that is underway and is taking place. And it will be seen more and more as we move through and past the 1111. So be clear. What are you choosing? Where are you really at? And what do you really want? This is the three sort of options for that woman, man, that are not meeting their choice points to this point. You have, you have default to human, what do you call that? There's a specific word. It's less triggering. Terminate your life. It's sort of like we're just looking at it as gameplay games, right? And then 3, you will receive a new role, a new player. So that's one. Then you have the other end. So the women that have decided that they're choosing a higher path, that some of these women that are support roles to the higher energies aren't choosing, just like the men, and they're forfeited. And so these women are going, well, if you're not going to do it, I kind of want to do it. I wouldn't mind having this responsibility. I wouldn't mind having this choice to be this individual, to take on more leadership, to take on more advancements in technology, abilities, gifts. And so what they're doing is they're taking that consciousness and evolving beyond their blueprint and what they had chosen in this incarnation to do. So that means that if they say we're deity in a previous incarnation, they might be claiming their goddess, and they might be coming up to be a support role to one of those hierarchical men that are coming as the leaders of the new earth. And that means that all of the divine roles and the counterparts are shifting and changing. The blueprints are shifting and changing. There has been a lot of distortion in the past around who is actually who, because we've had cloned, mimicked, manipulated divine counterparts. So the past karmic version of who is and who isn't someone is very confusing. And just because you've had an incarnation cycle with someone does not mean that you are meant to continue that at this point in time. Is there anything else? Yes. What is the other main important objectives? As we come closer to the full moon, you will find that your energy system, specifically in your heart and your throat, is going to accelerate. So the throat being for man and woman in the purification and the transcendent journey, this is the same for both man and woman. It's the crown and the throat is the only same points that they do in the initiation. So there's 7 to come into divine union or transcendence. And the high heart and the throat is going through a lot. And this is the 6th initiate phase for man and for woman. The 6th initiate phase is when you start to go into the final stages of the separation point to pure presence. That means that the yin and yang energy, which might have started out here when we got disconnected, we fragmented as children, and then we're coming in, yin and yang are coming closer and closer and closer until they become unified and one and present here and now. And that point is getting closer. So what happens is there's a lot of bouncing. So as we're moving through this bouncing moment or acceleration, which is the 21st of September, which is where that major shift turns, where we come into the new earth archetype, the new earth being, the new earth expression. For the first wave, we're going back to this top pillar, the second wave will come in around the 11:11, and the third wave, whatever they chose to be here in the new earth, will ripple out after the 11:11. So these pillars are important for you to recognize where you are and what to expect over this coming months as to what you'll be moving through. So for the 144 that are up here that are moving through this by the 21st, your tethering point is going to be very extreme, and it's going to cause a lot of heart palpitations, a lot of coughing, a lot of heat, fevers, a lot of hallucinations is a big piece that is coming up. Lots of need for sleep, but it's not sleep. You're going through light body upgrades, you're going through psychic surgery, you're going through transformation in the physical standpoint for you to be able to hold that consciousness. Then you are also to be aware of when this tethering point happens. So the closer you get to the 21st and shifting out of the 21st is the more attack you are going to receive. So if you haven't already realized who you should not have in your space, look at it, please. If you'd like as much ease as grace, this is really up to you. You're a sovereign being. So if you would like to avoid the turbulence of the light and dark war in your human reality, then be aware of what you need to pull yourself away from. If you need to go bush to support yourself over this time, to anchor, go and do it. If you need to call in sick from your job and not go to work for 2 weeks because you know you're one of these people, do it. If you want to make this as most easeful and graceful as possible and more successful, then please make the action steps that are true to your sacred heart in this, because those challenges of contrast in the human experience will happen. Things like cars will break down, injuries will take place, there will be financial strain, there will be navigations on your path that don't go right. You will have those things that show up to prevent you, block you, and not allow you to move forward. So create the space for yourself now. Honor yourself if this is in true resonance to your being, because this is a beautiful middle point of this tipping point, and it is very important. Anything else? No, we are complete. So we're going to complete this with a beautiful beautiful completion in relation to the circuitry system. So as you do it, I would like you to envision your Trinity, Holy Grail that you're working with right now, so that it is in your mind, and so that I can assist you with the frequencies, sounds, and the light coding to assist you in alchemizing that, rewiring it, and bringing it in. So just closing the eyes down, taking 3 deep breaths. And as you're breathing, we're connecting to the earth and the ether. We're allowing for the angelic support. We're allowing for all beings that are here in alignment to the evolution of the middle way of consciousness, unity consciousness, the truth, nista, kista, shata, kirati, nishkare se tita raki nae, ukure ki tianae. And allowing for you to hold yourself in the center point of your being, where there is a dissolving of the in and the out, the up and the down, where you allow for your energy field to soften and for your highest point of connection to be met and received in awareness. And as you receive that awareness, bringing to your mind's eye the Holy Grail and the Trinity that you're working on right now. What is that energy? What is that embodiment? What is the desired expression here to be met? And as you see this Trinity, we're going to start to code, calibrate, and you're going to vision it coming into your being and dissolving into each and every one of your cells, seeing the Trinity become each cell. So you have thousands and millions and infinite amounts of this Trinity throughout every expression of your body. Dish dae ki na asai tarake, do nae ki no shute tae, dae mahai kara tea, tishi maha tea nai I. Sede kareana, sede kareana, sede shiti ati tai te ki tai aratu, mahaye anahe, mahe anahe yaye, mahe anahe yaye, mahe anahe karaye yo, usarane, musarana he karahue ane. Dishtai ti karatu e ane, dishkaretu e sitiki tai ana, baha'a ra'aha ma'akiki ratiki shate, nush undu anai, na'a sete ki taraku te anai. It is done, it is done, it is already done. Anchoring yourself into the center of the earth and the heavens above. And we are coming back to the here, present moment now, where you are you and I am me. Where you are you and I am me. And where we are individuals to the one God, Source, Creator. If you enjoyed this transmission, please make sure you like, comment, and share and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you are looking for some support on future events, the current events that we have in the making are the 1010 portal, which is on 1010 in Australia at 5 a.m. Brisbane Standard Time. And this would be 9:10 in the other places around the world. You can find this in my linked tree, and you can go to an Eventbrite and purchase a ticket there, which will send you a Eventbrite option to have the Zoom link. I would love to see you there for that event. That is a unisex event for men and for women, focused on the high heart and through this part of the body, and any DNA shifts for that new earth archetypal you. If you are a woman and you are resonating at any of the embodied magic that I share in relation to being a priestess, oracle, a bringer of change, and you would like to journey with sisterhood and mystery school teachings, we have the Temple of Light, which is on the 6th of October, and that is a local event, but it is also a global event. So it will be streamed online for all sisters that want to partake in this. This is the first of the initiation phase for the Purity of Isis, which is a 333-day program for women, which is a devotion to spirit and becoming the goddess incarnate. This initiation day is for any woman. If you just want to drop into sisterhood, you want a bit more activation, a bit more remembrance, if you want to really master your abilities, if you want to receive strong light codes and information in a way of basically visiting an Egyptian temple from the ancient ways into the modern times, then this might be for you. And we will not be having the next event probably now until next January. So that is an estimated date. It is not set in stone. So if you're resonating now, take the leap of faith and sign yourself up. That is on the Sunshine Coast in Australia. It would be definitely worth the trip. I will be leaving Australia again in the next 5 to 6 weeks and moving back overseas to a new home base. So I'm not sure if or ever I will come back. Who knows with my life, and who knows with what's changing on the planet. I love you, beautiful souls. Thank you for receiving this transmission. Enjoy the journey, and I look forward to hearing all of the comments around what unfolds for you. Bye.